it's shameful that the opposition leader was booted just for doing his job. Another MP, Michael Cooper, labeled Fergus a disgrace.
Vote of non-confidence only because the New Democrats sided with the Liberals.
I've made a mistake. I apologize for this mistake.
In the next 10 minutes, you're going to witness the moment Greg Fergus tried to shut down Pierre Poilievre and failed spectacularly. We'll break down every second of this political showdown. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
Very clear that was just wrong. That wasn't the intention. It shouldn't have, not only wasn't...
In 2011, Justin Trudeau, he was then a backbencher, he called a Conservative cabinet minister a piece of... and he did that in the House of Commons.
You'll see Poilievre's blistering attack on Trudeau's policies, Fergus's desperate attempt to silence him, and the aftermath that has Canadians calling for the Speaker's resignation. Buckle up for a roller coaster ride through the halls of power. Greg Fergus's video tribute for John Fraser, the former interim leader of the Ontario Liberals, has sparked a firestorm of controversy. In this shocking display of partisanship, Fergus wore his official speaker robes while thanking Fraser for his service and friendship. He even called Fraser a friend and mentor, praising his contributions to our party and our province. Conservative MPs were quick to pounce on this blatant breach of the Speaker's nonpartisan role. Andrew Scheer, the Conservative House leader, blasted Fergus for his partisan tribute while dressed in the Speaker's robes. He argued that such actions should only be done in a personal capacity, not as the impartial voice of Parliament. Fergus tried to defend himself, claiming the video was meant for a small, private gathering to honor Fraser. But his weak excuses only fueled the fire. He then backpedaled, offering an apology to MPs and blaming a miscommunication about how the video would be used. But the damage was already done. This explosive incident reveals the deep conflict between Fergus's role as Speaker and his apparent inability to shed his partisan skin. By donning the Speaker's robes for a Liberal love fest, Fergus has thrown the integrity of his office into question. How can MPs trust him to be fair and impartial when he's cozying up to Liberal buddies on camera?
The Liberal Party of Canada has shown profound disrespect by publishing that.
That NDP support will allow Fergus to survive.
But it wasn't one where I was pronouncing about the present or making a declaration on that front. It was a mistake.
But here's the real kicker. Fergus's partisan antics are more than just poor judgment. They're a calculated move to shield Prime Minister Trudeau from scrutiny. By undermining the Speaker's neutrality, Fergus is laying the groundwork to silence opposition and protect his Liberal allies from tough questions.
Increasing support for commercial flights. There are spaces for Canadian
encampments know better. The 35 homeless encampments in Halifax, the people there.
This incident leaves Canadians wondering, can Fergus truly separate his Liberal loyalties from his duties as Speaker? Or will he continue to use his position to run interference for Trudeau and the Liberals? The answers to these questions could determine the future of fair debate in our Parliament. Just when you thought Canadian politics couldn't get more heated, Poilievre and Trudeau faced off in an epic showdown. But it wasn't Trudeau who silenced Poilievre. It was the Speaker himself. What controversial decision by Greg Fergus sent shockwaves through Parliament and had the entire Conservative caucus walking out in protest? The House of Commons erupted into chaos as Pierre Poilievre launched a blistering attack on Justin Trudeau's drug policies. With passion in his voice, Poilievre demanded answers about British Columbia's drug decriminalization experiment. He pointed out the horrifying statistic that 22 British Columbians are dying every single day from drug overdoses. Poilievre wasn't pulling any punches. He called the policy wacko and demanded to know if Trudeau would put an end to this madness.
Of the 2 Canadians killed is something that weighs heavily on us. but we know we need to continue to connect young people with their language, their culture, their elders, their stories.
But Trudeau wasn't about to take this criticism lying down. He fired back, accusing Poilievre of cozying up to far-right extremists. In a shocking moment, the Prime Minister even declared that Poilievre didn't deserve elected office. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. That's when Speaker Greg Fergus decided to step in. He took issue with Poilievre's use of the word wacko and asked him to take it back. But Poilievre stood his ground. He offered to use words like extremist or radical instead, but Fergus wasn't having it. The back and forth between the two men grew more intense with each exchange. Finally, Fergus made a decision that left everyone stunned. He ejected Poilievre from the chamber. The opposition leader, known for his sharp tongue and unwillingness to back down, had been silenced. But the drama didn't end there.
Liberal Party, and the party itself issued an apology to Fergus. Good enough for the PM.
I have full confidence in Greg Fergus as
In a show of solidarity, the entire Conservative caucus stood up and walked out of the House of Commons. They were furious, claiming that Fergus was applying the rules unfairly. After all, Trudeau had used some pretty harsh language himself without facing any consequences. This explosive confrontation has left Canadians questioning the fairness of debate in Parliament. Is Fergus really being impartial? Or is he using his power to protect Trudeau and the Liberals? The battle for free speech and accountability in our government is far from over, and this incident may have just been the opening salvo in a much larger war. Greg Fergus's actions as Speaker have ignited a firestorm of controversy, with Conservatives accusing him of blatant bias against their party. They claim Fergus is wielding his power to protect Justin Trudeau and silence opposition voices. The evidence? A stark contrast in how Fergus treats Liberal and Conservative MPs during heated debates. But it's Fergus's use of the mute button that's really got people talking. Critics say he's transforming question period into a Liberal echo chamber, conveniently silencing tough questions about government policies. It's like he's got an itchy trigger finger whenever a Conservative starts grilling Trudeau.
Lined up at food banks, 2 million of them every month. No better. The people who are living in the 1800 Ontario.
but that our partners and countries around the world are increasingly needing to find.
The outrage has spilled beyond Parliament Hill. A petition is making the rounds, demanding future speakers lose their muting powers. Canadians are fed up with what they see as censorship in the heart of our democracy. It's not just the Conservatives calling for Fergus's head. MPs from multiple parties want him gone, saying he's lost all credibility as an impartial referee. But Fergus isn't backing down. He claims he's just doing his job, keeping order in the House. Yeah, right. Pierre Poilievre isn't taking this lying down. He's fighting back against what he calls liberal tyranny in Parliament. Poilievre's plan? Keep hammering away at Trudeau's failures, daring Fergus to try and silence him again. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, with the integrity of Parliament hanging in the balance. The impact on House operations has been massive. Debates are more heated than ever, with MPs constantly challenging Fergus's rulings. The atmosphere is toxic, with cooperation between parties at an all-time low. Some worry this could lead to a complete breakdown of parliamentary norms. But here's the real kicker. Experts say the rules around unparliamentary language are super vague. What flies one day might get you kicked out the next. It's this gray area that Fergus is exploiting, and it's driving the opposition crazy. As the battle rages on, one thing's clear. Canadian democracy is under siege. Will Fergus's iron grip on the Speaker's chair hold? Or will Poilievre's relentless attacks finally break through? The next few weeks will be crucial in determining the future of free speech in our Parliament. Remember when Parliament was boring? Those days are long gone. The Fergus controversy has MPs from all sides foaming at the mouth. And now they're sharpening their knives for an official investigation. But here's what nobody's talking about. How this mess could completely rewrite the rules of Canadian democracy for decades to come.
The federal government will deliver more than $16 million a year in increased funding. ASEAN has nearly doubled since I first became Prime Minister in 2015, and ASEAN is now Canada's.
The House of Commons is more divided than ever. Conservatives are on the warpath, accusing Fergus of being Trudeau's puppet. They're not backing down, and they're determined to expose what they see as a Liberal plot to silence the opposition. Meanwhile, the Liberals are circling the wagons, trying to protect their own. But it's not just a two-party fight anymore. The Procedure and House Affairs Committee is diving headfirst into this explosive situation. They've got until December 14th to figure out if Fergus broke the rules with his controversial video. And let me tell you, the pressure is on. Everyone's watching to see if they'll actually hold Fergus accountable, or if it'll be another toothless investigation. The fallout from this mess is huge. Parliamentary business has ground to a halt. Debates are turning into shouting matches. MPs are more focused on scoring political points than actually getting things done for Canadians. It's a total gong show. And the public, they're not happy. Social media is blowing up with people demanding answers. They're sick of the partisan games and want real accountability. The media is having a field day, pumping out story after story about the chaos in Ottawa. But here's the real bombshell. Experts are saying this could change Canadian politics forever. The way speakers handle debates, the rules around what MPs can say, it's all up for grabs now.
Ensuring flights to be able to do that, because if the situation gets worse, as we are working very hard to
represents the fastest growing region in the globe. In fact, trade between Canada.
We could be looking at a whole new playbook for how Parliament operates. And Fergus's trigger-happy mute button? There's more to that story than meets the eye. Some insiders are whispering that it's all part of a bigger strategy to protect Trudeau from tough questions about his failed policies. They're using censorship to hide the truth from Canadians. As for Fergus himself, his future as Speaker is looking shakier by the day. More and more people are calling for his head. Will he be able to weather this storm, or will he be forced out like the last Speaker? One thing's for sure. Canadian democracy is under attack, and the next few weeks will decide if free speech in Parliament survives or gets silenced for good. The Fergus Poilievre showdown has exposed deep cracks in Canada's parliamentary system. Fergus's partisan video and controversial muting tactics have raised serious questions about Speaker impartiality. Meanwhile, Poilievre's ejection from the House has ignited a firestorm over free speech and fair debate. This explosive confrontation goes beyond typical political squabbles. It strikes at the very heart of Canadian democracy. Can Parliament function when trust in its referee has been shattered? Will opposition voices be silenced to protect those in power? The future of civility in the House of Commons hangs in the balance. As partisan tensions reach a boiling point, many wonder if respectful debate is even possible anymore. Will cooler heads prevail? Or is this the new normal for Canadian politics? The answers to these questions will shape our democracy for years to come.